Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. Amy Reiley is a recognized authority on aphrodisiac foods, speaker, cookbook author, and consultant. She holds a Master of Arts in Gastronomy from Le Cordon Bleu and is known for her pioneering work in culinary aphrodisiacs. Amy's notable appearances include The Today Show and Nightline, and she contributes to Gayet.com. Her best-selling books include Fork Me, Spoon Me, and Eat Cake Naked. Based in Los Angeles, Amy also focuses on sustainability in the food industry, helping studios donate leftover catering through Rock and Wrap It Up. Wow, Amy, thank you so much for joining me on my show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm excited because, I don't know if you know my history, but I used to be a professional drinker, but not in the good
Mhm.
wine tasting arts, more like in an alcoholic dependency, the other side of the spectrum there. And I remember when I would go on dates,
Mhm.
I would have to drink in order to get that mood going, for me to feel
Oh.
more confident. Or even if I was my spouse back then, my ex-spouse,
Mhm.
I would have to have a glass of red wine in order for me to become in the mood. So I'm
Mm.
so excited to have you on my show because we're talking about all things food that increase our like libido, I would want to say,
Yeah,
when it
yeah,
comes to food.
yeah.
And I'm not shy on this show. I'm very giggly, so I'm open to discussing anything. But I would just first love for you to share your actually journey and how you started to become this
Okay,
aphrodisiac foods and
sure.
sexual health expert here.
So I started out, I was writing about wine, as you mentioned. I was working as a wine writer, wine competition judge, and I also was writing a little bit about food. And I loved anything to do with food history, and anything that would interweave the history of food with like folklore. But during this time, I also got very sick, like very, very sick. And it took a while to get a diagnosis. And the diagnosis, finally, when I found out, was so not sexy, but basically I had a systemic yeast infection combined with a mold allergy, which essentially meant that I had my digestive system was kind of destroyed at the time. And I was losing weight rapidly. And I didn't want to. I mean, I went down to 90 something pounds. It was crazy. Yeah, I'm 5'8", so it was super
Oh,
crazy. Yeah,
wow.
yeah. Um, anyway, the treatment was mostly changing my diet temporarily, but I had to eliminate so many foods from my diet, like almost everything. It was horrible. And although it was horrible, what I noticed right away is almost instantly I started to feel better. And I was really fascinated by this reaction. Like I couldn't believe how much my body could respond and change and feel completely different just by changing the way that I ate. And so, since I already had this, I was already working in the food business and writing about food. And I was like, oh, this is it. This is my calling. This is what I want to do. I want to show other people how you can make food choices that just can change the way that you feel for the better. And I aphrodisiacs was a natural choice for me because it combined my love of folklore and my love of food history with my love of eating well, eating right, making the smart food choices. Because that's all it is. It's a combination. Aphrodisiacs is a combination of those two things. And so I kind of continued down this path. I went on and got my master's degree in gastronomy and got to study, even increase my knowledge there. I started working with a nutritionist, actually a woman who'd been working with me as an intern and writing for me. She loved the subject so much she went on to get a PhD in nutrition. And
Mm.
so she and I started working together. How can we do this together? How can we build this from our points of knowledge? And so I just kept growing. And so yeah, I spend a lot of my time, I'll read the data, the scientific data on these foods, and I'll spend part of my day researching history, and I'll spend part of my day writing and speaking, and I love it. It's an incredible area of food. I think any health topic is incredible, but mine is really fun because I'm helping people feel good.
Yes, especially sexually, because some people tend to
Exactly.
not have that libido and they want to see what's natural out there that they can
Right.
incorporate into their daily lives, like chili
Right.
peppers,
Yes.
oysters, I hear. What are some other foods that will increase libido for men or
Well, it sounds like
women?
you've done some of your homework already, right? Yeah, oysters for sure is the famous one, and we can even talk about why it's actually legitimately true. Chocolate. I have a list. So I run a website called eatsomething.sexy.com. And on there, with this nutrition PhD friend of mine, Delana, we created lists of the 10 best foods for women's sexual health and the 10 best foods for men's sexual health. And believe it or not, chocolate makes, dark chocolate specifically, makes the list for women of
Wow.
one of the 10 best foods you can eat for your sexual health, among other things. Believe it or not, um, dark chocolate will help the pH, balance the pH of a woman's vagina.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
You need a
that.
healthy vagina, man.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
it's something we don't talk about. We don't talk about really women when we talk about, sexual health and eating for your libido. It's usually men we talk about because when they have a problem, it's very pronounced. Whereas women, we just get forgotten or we hide it,
Right.
you know.
Yes.
Um, so
Yes.
other foods for women and would be, I know people roll their eyes when I say this one, but kale.
I love kale.
Oh, good. Good. Because most people go, really? I have to eat kale. To which I respond, there are many ways you can use kale other than eating it raw, that can be delicious. You can make kale chips.
Yeah.
You can put it in a soup, right? You can put it in lasagna,
Right,
right?
right.
So yeah.
Lasagna, yes. And I just made kale chips not too long ago and they came
Oh,
out
fun.
so good.
They're so easy to
Yeah.
make too.
So
So
easy. Just
yeah,
pour a little olive oil, a little sprinkle some sea salt, if or whatever, and then
exactly.
throw it in the oven for a little bit, and then voila, it's done. Because I started just cooking recently in 2020. I had that break. I think all of us had that
Mhm.
break in
Mhm.
2020, and we just had that pause, and I learned that I can cook. Before it was
Oh,
ramen,
excellent.
mac and cheese, and all these
No,
things.
no.
Yeah, so before
Oh
the
dear.
pandemic, I actually got married in February to
Mhm.
my Indian husband, and Indian spices, I have learned to grind them with the mortar and pestle.
Fabulous.
Yes. And so
Yeah.
I'm learning all about like ingredients and everything. And so he appreciates me so much because I cook for
Oh,
him. And but the chili, I want to talk
the
about the
chili.
chili. And you actually have a
Yes,
book called Chili Aphrodisia, right?
I do. I wrote a book all about chili peppers as aphrodisiacs. And what's fun
Yeah.
about chilies, by the way, they're also on my list of the best foods for women. They're great for women nutritionally, but they're great for everyone. Like for if you're planning a romantic menu, chilies are wonderful because they raise your body temperature, right? But not only that, they make your tongue tingle, which psychologically may make you feel a little more like kissing someone. Best of all, they bring a little bit of color to your cheeks. Like you just look brighter. They make you look good and they'll make your lips plump up. So to someone who is attracted to you, they'll just want to kiss you.
Oh, wow.
Chilies, all that from a chili pepper.
Very much chili pepper. Yeah. So unfortunately, my husband, so it's interesting because, he's South Indian, so they use a
Mm.
lot of
Oh yeah, a
chili
lot of chili.
in their
Ooh.
ingredients. But for him, it's like he has to take Pepto-Bismol in order for
Oh,
him
oh,
to,
oh.
in order for him to have
Yeah,
that chili because it
yeah.
upsets his tummy. But yes, I mean, it gets me all warm and fuzzy
Mm-hmm.
inside, and
Yeah.
I think it does pucker my lips, and I want to drink more water afterward, of course.
Well, and and that's another good thing because hydration is one of the best things you can do for your sex life. And people don't think it. They're like, that's not sexy, but no, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what keeps us nice and moist.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes, I was just sharing with you that I went to a restaurant in Woodside, which is not too far from here, maybe about 45 minutes. Beautiful. It's called Mountain House. It's up in the mountains, and my mom had just celebrated her 25th anniversary, so the silver anniversary. and the food was amazing. And it was a Michelin starred chef restaurant. So like truffles, all these like amazing
Fabulous.
things. And so I noticed that I was looking at my husband a little bit differently, but I was
Oh.
figuring out which ingredient of these foods here. I had
Mm.
like this beet pecan, my mouth is literally watering right now as I'm talking about it because it's so good.
You know
Um,
it's a good meal when you talk about it later
Right,
in
it's
your,
so
yeah.
good. But anyway, that's a good recommendation for a restaurant. If you want good food, go there.
Mm.
But I want to talk about your first book. It was Fork Me, Spoon Me. I think that is a fabulous and incredible
Oh,
title.
thank
That's so
you.
nice. What actually inspired you to shape your journey as a culinary aphrodisiac expert?
I just, I'm trying to think, why did I write Fork Me, Spoon Me? I just knew at that point I had learned all of this information about aphrodisiacs. I wanted to share it. And I just wanted people to get excited about food, plain and simple. And so I created a book that was really just an introduction to aphrodisiacs. I chose 12 ingredients to highlight and, talked about why they're aphrodisiac, why you might want to eat them, and then, of course, the recipes for what to do with them. And I was careful to craft recipes for that book that were at every level. So, like, if you couldn't boil water, you could still make stuff from my cookbook.
Wow.
But then there were also, I actually asked some chef friends to contribute recipes, people who are kind of known for their cuisine, lent itself to romance. And so we had some high level recipes too, so that you would never get bored cooking from this book. And it's still my favorite. I still love that book so much.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I have to get these books because I'm just like now. And you also had the opportunity to appear on shows like Today Show and the
Mhm.
Nightline. How
I
have these
did.
experiences helped in spreading awareness about the role of food and in enhancing romance and intimacy?
Well, I think everyone's always surprised. I know whenever I go on a show, the hosts are always surprised that, like, oh, like you have legitimate reasons here. You're not just coming on to say, oh, feed someone oysters because they're known to be aphrodisiac. But I give you legitimate reasons. I can explain to you how this can either, affect you physiologically or how it's going to provide building blocks to your sexual health. I can give you suggestions for how to use it. I can also talk to you about the other part of it is if you're planning a romantic evening, you've really got to think about all the building blocks of that evening. It's not just about the food, it's about what kind of food does the other person like? How much time do you have? Um, don't make something that's complicated because you don't want to get stressed. You don't want a failure.
Yeah.
Right? So I can talk about all of these things, and people are always surprised, like, oh, we didn't think about, we thought you were just going to tell us a list of silly foods that have some kind of history, or some, that we have some notion that are, they can do something for us, but really they can.
Yes, and now we know what some foods that increase our endorphins and are more as aphrodisiac. What are some of the foods that are opposite that we should be avoiding
Oh,
that don't increase the
yeah,
libido?
stay away from beer.
That makes you bloated, huh?
Yes. Floaty, burpy, like, it's just not good. Interestingly, there was a study that found the scent of cherries was a turnoff. I kind of question it. I mean, it was based in science. Like, it was, the thing of it is cherries don't have much of a scent, so why are we even worrying about
Yeah, I was trying
that?
to think about how
Right.
what is cherry? I know I have cherry
They have
bomb.
no, so they have, yeah, they have a real actual cherry has very little scent. And interestingly, like nutritionally, they're really good for you. They're great for your sex life. So, that one's not really, I can dispel that myth. I always tell people to stay away from the weird stuff. There's a lot of weird foods that are considered aphrodisiac, largely because they're just weird. You don't have to eat a snake, you don't have to eat a turtle egg. These are not like, no, don't, no.
The weirdest one should just be the oyster, right?
Yeah, and yeah, I mean that's weird enough, right? I actually love oysters, but yes.
Yes, me too. My husband and I were in Seattle, it was a couple years back, and then
Mhm.
it was just he and I. We just took a weekend trip without the kids. And then we went and enjoyed oyster shooters. We had
Mm.
smoked oysters, raw oysters,
Oh, you did it
different
all.
kinds of oysters. We
Every
did it
oyster you
all.
could eat. I love
And
it.
yes, and I do remember, and it is a very memorable time over in Seattle. And when it was just he and I was like, wow, thinking about we really had great intimate moments there in Seattle. And I gave
Interesting.
it to
Yeah.
that, I gave it to the oysters there. He knew what he was doing. Wink,
Yeah.
wink. Now, I'm a big dessert person. I love
Mhm.
sweets like chocolate. Now, good to know that dark chocolate actually definitely increases,
Right.
you know, libido. But your latest book, Eat Cake Naked. I love your titles, by the way. They're so
Thank you.
they're so fun. But it focuses on aphrodisiac desserts. Now, what
Right.
makes desserts a particularly effective medium for aphrodisiacs? And could you share a favorite recipe from your book?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm a dessert person too. So for me, that's always going to be a winner, just automatically. And if you're not a dessert person, then okay, forget it. This is not the book for you. Don't get Eat Cake Naked. But for most of us, um, dessert is, it's the sweet treat at the end, right? It's always all of our lives, dessert kind of made things better, right? Just in life. So it's kind of a mood elevator, just having that sweet treat, first of all. And then a lot of desserts have a lot of sensuality. There's like sensual textures. Think of like my husband's favorite is I have a key lime pie that's in Eat Cake Naked, actually. So you've got like this crunchy crust, you've got this creamy, filling, the key lime filling, and then you've got the whipped cream on top. And so it's three different sensations, and it's a very sensual food. You don't think of key lime pie as being sexy, but if you really break it down, it's a very sensual, well, when it's made right. Anyway, it's a
Yeah.
very like it's like I've had some that were like stiff and like with gelatin, almost like a jello tech. No, no,
Oh.
no, no. There's got to be a nice puddingy kind of whipped cream experience. And so for me, that's another reason that dessert is very aphrodisiac, is because it's just a sensual experience to eat dessert often.
Yes, every time I have sweets, it's like, oh, thank you. My mood is just I'm just happier.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm
I
so,
went for a while, I carried a dark chocolate bar around in my purse so that anytime like traffic jam or like big line at the post office, I just pull it out, eat a little chocolate, feel a lot better. And then one day it melted in my purse and I went, okay, I gotta
oh
stop.
no.
So only in winter, I guess, is the lesson. But
Yeah, it's so funny because I actually carry some like protein bars that are chocolatey and caramelly and nutty and so good.
uh-huh.
And it
Nice.
happened to me too. Like I was like, hey, I went hiking and normally it's like to take a
Oh,
couple like travel snacks with me and it was
right.
just all melted. I'm like, no, my favorite bar.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like my go-to things when I'm craving something sweet.
Yeah.
But you do something incredible. Apart from your culinary endeavors, you also contribute to what's called Rock and Wrap It. Now, can you
Rock
talk
and wrap it up.
yeah,
Yes.
Rock and Wrap It Up. Can you go ahead
Yeah.
and elaborate on this initiative?
Oh, I'd love to. It's so special. So Rock and Wrap It Up is basically an anti-poverty think tank that's been around for over 30 years. And my role is that I work for them with the sustainability departments of most of the major television studios, like Warner Media and HBO, Netflix, Paramount. And I help them with basically keeping things out of the trash, plain and simple. And most of the time that's food. When a show is shooting on location, when they're done with lunch, they just have to throw it all in the trash. But instead, I help them find people in need who can come get this food, or places close by where they can take this food so it goes to someone who can use it. And then sometimes I'll do the same things with like wardrobe and props and things like that, just to help keep these things out of the trash and into the hands of people who really need it.
That's beautiful. And that's actually how I met my husband. we would get a lot of food, extra food from either, restaurants who are like, we don't need this, or
Mhm.
perhaps like even Little Caesars Pizza, we're like, we're not going to use these pizzas. Can you just take
Mm,
them? And then at our old church, what we would do is we would have teams that would go out and then serve the homeless that are out
mhm.
on the street, and we would
Yeah.
give them the food. So that's so awesome that you're doing
Yeah.
that, and it brings so much joy when you're doing something that's amazing, doesn't it?
It is. It's really, it's so wonderful. It's like my husband keeps saying, you don't have time to do all the things you do. And I was like, but I can't give that up.
Yes. And how long have you been doing that?
So I volunteered with them for about 15 years. And then one day they called me and said, hey, we need a person on the ground in Los Angeles as an employee. So since 2019, I've actually worked part-time for them.
Oh, wow, that's so
Yeah,
cool. Now,
thanks.
and as a mother and professional, how do you balance your family life with your career?
Not well. I mean, I think, I think every mother can say, I'm doing it, I'm managing. Maybe not the best that I can, but we all try, right? And I mean, the kids come first, always. I think
Yeah.
most every mother will say that. I pulled back a lot on my career when I had kids. I used to fly to New York. This time of year, I'd be flying back and forth to New York doing television morning shows and things like that. I just don't do that now, and that's fine. I have, my life is much more full and fulfilling, but I still can do opportunities like this to talk to people and help encourage. I mean, my goal is just to encourage people to think about the way you eat and eat well and feel well and be well. So I can still do it.
That's awesome. And now, can you share some success stories or at least some feedback from individuals who have incorporated your advice on aphrodisiac foods in their lives?
Oh, definitely. People, once they find out what I do, people really like to overshare. So
That's great.
my very favorite story is so I became friendly with a woman who ran a bakery around the corner from my house. And I would come in, pick up some baked goods and stay and chat with her for a little while. And it didn't come out until a few months into this relationship that I wrote cookbooks. And when she found out I wrote Fork Me, Spoon Me, she said, no way. I have this friend who she wanted to have a husband. Her goal, her New Year's resolution basically was to find a husband, have children. That was it. So she bought this book, convinced that this book was going to get her a husband and children. And she's like, and you know what? It did.
Oh,
She
wow.
said, she started reading this book and cooking from it. And the next thing you knew, she had this wonderful boyfriend who's quickly became her husband. And now they have children. And I was like, whoa. At that point, the book was only like 2.5 years old. So, I mean, it happened fast, right?
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I'm going to put all of these in the show notes too, because I'm sure our listeners is like, okay, I no longer drink and use that as like my aphrodisiac anymore. I want to
Yeah.
go towards foods, and these are some great recipes that they can go ahead and use at
Yeah.
home. And they're pretty easy to make, right?
So most of the recipes are very, very easy to make. Some are more complicated, and you just look at it. I mean, when you see a list and it's like 5 ingredients versus 12 ingredients, you know which one to pick if you don't want something challenging, right? Or
Totally.
look at the list of steps. That's always with any recipe, just look at the list of steps. If it's a lot of steps, maybe you don't want to do it. Or maybe you want a challenge today. That's, either way, but you can definitely tell that way. I can also tell you that when I was writing Fork Me Spoon Me, I had this friend who was male, and he was a bachelor and he did not know how to cook. He lived on takeout. And when you test recipes for a cookbook, you make them over and over and over. You have a lot of food in the house, and a lot of it, I was just tired of it because you're eating the same, making and eating the same recipes over and over. You're tweaking them slightly, but it's still the same basic thing, right?
Yeah.
So I would call him up and invite him over because I had all this extra food, and I just kept inviting him over. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, 3 years later, we moved in together. Then when I was writing Romancing the Stove, I got pregnant with my first child.
Oh, nice.
So apparently the recipe testing really worked for me on both of those books, on both Fork Me, Spoon Me, and then my second book, Romancing the Stove.
So you're the success story.
I am also, a success story. Um, let's see, when I wrote Eat Cake Naked, I already had 2 children and I didn't want any more, so broke the streak, but it is a book of delicious recipes for sure.
Yeah, oh my goodness, that's so awesome. Now, for those new to the concept of aphrodisiac foods, like what would you recommend they start at in order to enhance their sexual and romantic experiences?
So, what I recommend to everyone is go to eatsomething.sexy.com and find my list of the 10 best foods for men and the 10 best foods for women. Um, I talk about each ingredient individually. I have links to recipes to kind of give you some, just kind of spark some creativity, spark some interest in actually using them. So that is what I highly recommend. Like if you want to start eating for your own sexual health, that is the very best place. I've given you all the tools, I promise. Uh, and then beyond that, I think it's really paying attention to what you eat. So I have a brand new book. And it's actually a whole system. It's called the Better Sex Bundle for Men. And with that, what I did was I wrote this, it focuses on those 10 best foods for men. That's where it starts. And then how to use them, how to incorporate them into your diet, how to think of them sort of as your friends, and also the other elements that come with it, how you can cook to increase intimacy, how you being on this program is going to affect your partner, and how how you need to bring romance in as well, how you need to also think about them. Don't just think about you and your 10 foods, all of, and all of the other things. Are you getting exercise? All of that. But my favorite part of this program is that I include a journal, and not a like write down your feelings journal. No, no. Just a very simple, almost check in with yourself kind of checklist type journal where every day you evaluate, how did you feel? How was your energy? How much sleep did you get? Like what were the influencing factors? Did you start a new medication? Did you remember to take your medication? Right? Because we all know, I mean, especially starting a new medication can change everything,
Hmm.
and we don't realize it sometimes. Also, did you eat the foods? Did you veer off of this plan completely and eat McDonald's for lunch and fried chicken for dinner? Like, and if you did, how did you feel? Right? So you
Right.
just become more aware. It's an awareness journal, really. Become more aware of the influencing factors and which ones that you personally need to pay attention to, because it's different for everyone. And I know you're probably thinking, well, why did I just do this for men? Um, right? Yeah. Women deserve it. We all deserve it. I will be coming out with the Better Sex Bundle for women. It's coming out in April. And if anyone wants to kind of get alerted to this, if this sounds like something that makes sort of eating for your sexual health easier, which it does, you can sign up for my mailing list so you'll get an alert that when it's out. You can sign up for my mailing list on any page of eatsomething.sexy.com, and I will be happy to keep you in the loop.
Yes, and I will have everything in the show notes for you. Yes, and for the men, because you have your partner. Hello, ladies. Get that for your
Yeah.
man. And then in April,
Yes.
just sign on to her mailing list, and then you will receive also the tools for you for women, for you.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Now for our listeners who are eager to incorporate aphrodisiac foods into their diets, could you suggest any other ingredients or simple ways that whatever they could include in their everyday meals?
So, so for everyday meals, I was going to say we touched on some of the things you can do for a romantic evening, like
Yeah.
have oysters, have some chilies, avoid beer.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But in your everyday, a lot of it is try to eat lots of natural and fresh foods. The majority of fruits and vegetables, believe it or not, have a history as an aphrodisiac. And along with that, many of them have nutrition that will support sexual health. We don't realize it, but there are several nutrients that are just vital to sexual health. And yes, they're slightly different for men and women, but foods with potassium are important for all of us. Foods with vitamin C are actually great for your sexual health. Any food that you've ever heard is good for heart health is really good for your sexual health because it's for the same reason. It's all about circulation. You
Mhm.
need to have good circulation in order to achieve sexual arousal as well as sexual climax. So heart healthy foods like oats, red wine, all of these things are great.
Yes, yes. And so it's been an honor to have you on my show. I'm so hungry right now talking about all these foods.
Go have a good healthy snack.
Yes, yes, yes. I definitely
Yeah,
tomatoes is good for the heart, and I love like the
tomatoes,
crazy
exactly.
salads
Yes,
with
perfect.
those
Oh,
cheese.
and do you know cheese reduces like the bacteria in your mouth, so you're more kissable after eating cheese.
I
Yeah.
did not know that. I did not know that. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
And so if our listeners want to go ahead and follow you, where can they find you?
So you can find everything out at eatsomethingsexy.com. And as I mentioned, I have so many free resources there. Definitely sign up for my mailing list. That is the best way. These are the people I keep in touch with the most. Um, I'm an avid pinner. I'm on Pinterest and I keep great boards of like, I have a Valentine's Day board that's amazing. So find me on Pinterest. I'm at Fork Me Spoon Me. I'm also on Twitter at Fork Me Spoon Me. But yeah, my mailing list is definitely the way that I really engage with people the most. So I would love to have you on there.
Yes. Thank you so much, Amy. Any last thoughts or any last words you'd like to share?
You know, I I think really just I feel like I may have overwhelmed people, but it's really and I don't want you to think, you don't have to eat things that you don't like, but maybe, take the time to really enjoy some delicious natural foods and it's in the moment. Be in the moment with them. Like, listen to the crunch of that apple. You know what I mean? Enjoy that scarlet color of the tomato and really just take the moment to really enjoy what you're eating.
Yeah, savor the flavor. I remember.
Oh, I love that. I haven't heard that one before, but I love it. Savor the flavor.
Savor the flavor. Yes,
Nice.
you're more aware, more in tune to what you want to eat and
Yeah,
listen to your body, and hey,
definitely.
try something new. You'd be surprised of
Mm.
what you like and may not like. You never know. You'd be like, "Oh, I thought I would never love this, but now it's like your favorite
Mm-hmm.
food." You never
So
know.
true. So
Like
true.
like my children and sushi all of a sudden. One is like eating.
Oh,
I was like, "You're eating that? Wow, I'm so happy for you."
oh, my son would refuse to try chocolate. He didn't like the look of it when he was
Oh my
2.
goodness. Oh, I
So
love
finally, my
chocolate.
husband just like popped it in his mouth and he was like, oh, that. Yeah.
How cute. Oh, I love kids. They're so adorable.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Amy. It was so nice talking with you.
Thank you.